All right, so picture this. You're in charge of leading a brand new nation through a desert. No easy task, right? You've got a new rule book, but what happens when those rules, well, they backfire and create a totally unfair situation? And how do you even find your way when there are no maps? We're about to jump into this amazing story from the ancient book of Numbers that hits on these exact problems. It's all about a second chance and this incredible guiding cloud. Think of it like a divine GPS, and it tells us so much about law and real leadership.
I mean, just think about the sheer scale of that challenge. You've got hundreds of thousands of people, and you're all constantly on the move through this really harsh desert. You can't just rely on a written law book. You're going to need something more. You need a way to make decisions on the fly. And as this story shows us, the solution was a mix of both, a solid set of rules and a living, breathing guide. So, to set the scene, where are we in this whole epic journey? This timeline gives us our bearings. We're in the Sinai Desert. It's been exactly 1 year since that dramatic escape from Egypt. This is literally the very first anniversary of their freedom, which makes it the perfect time to start setting up some really important national traditions. And that leads us right into the first part of our story. Every new nation needs those foundational traditions. And for them, it all starts with a rule that's tied directly to that anniversary of freedom. This is where we get to see their brand new legal system get its very first real-world test. So the first big command for this new nation is crystal clear. Their leader, Moses, is told that everyone, and I mean everyone, has to celebrate the Passover on a very specific date, the 14th day of the first month. Now, this isn't a suggestion. The rule is absolute. Everybody's got to do it. But you know how it goes. A perfectly clear rule is about to run headfirst into messy, complicated human reality. An unexpected problem pops up, something the original law just didn't account for. So here's the dilemma. You've got this group of guys who are, for ceremonial reasons, considered unclean. And why? Well, it's because they came into contact with a dead body, which probably means they were doing something important, like a burial. But the law was super strict. If you're unclean, you cannot celebrate the Passover. Period. It's not their fault at all, but hey, the rule's the rule. It looks like they're just out. But what they do next is really fascinating. They don't just, accept it. They go to their leaders, Moses and Aaron, and they make this incredibly powerful appeal. Their question is all about fundamental fairness. Hey, we became unclean doing a necessary duty. Why should we be blocked from this essential community celebration because of it? And this really gets to the heart of the story, right? What do you do? What happens when a sacred, absolute law seems to create a totally unjust outcome in a real-world situation? Do you bend the rule, or do you just stick to the letter of the law no matter what? Well, the answer they get isn't about rigidly enforcing the rules. Instead, it's this powerful lesson in compassionate leadership, and it leads to what we can basically call the second chance law. And this right here is such a crucial moment of leadership. Moses doesn't just invent a new rule on the spot. He doesn't brush off their concerns. Instead, he just pauses. He says, hold on, let me find out. He recognizes they have a valid point, and he seeks a higher wisdom. This isn't about finding a loophole. It's about a thoughtful, responsive way of making law. And the answer that comes back is, honestly, brilliant in its simplicity. A new provision is created. If you miss the Passover in the first month for a legitimate reason, like being unclean or away on a journey, you get a second chance. You can celebrate it exactly 1 month later on the 14th day of the second month. It's such a simple shift in timing, but it makes all the difference for inclusion. But let's be clear, this is not some watered-down Passover light. The law is very firm. All the core rules still apply. The meal, the way you eat it, and the very serious consequences for anyone who can celebrate but just decides not to, all of that stays exactly the same. The flexibility is in the timing, not the substance. And there's one last really important detail they added. This rule, the second chance and all, it was for everyone. It applied just the same to the native-born Israelites and to any foreigners living right there with them. It was one single inclusive law for the whole community. Okay, so let's shift gears to the second part of our story, and you'll see how this all connects. We just saw a very specific rule get updated. Now we're going to zoom way out and look at the constant, moment-by-moment guidance that led their entire journey. Forget a law book. This was, for all intents and purposes, a divine GPS. Now, at the very heart of this divine GPS system was a structure called the Tabernacle. You can think of it as a portable sanctuary, this special tent that symbolized God's presence, and it was placed right in the physical center of the entire camp. Literally everything revolved around it. So during the day, this mysterious, massive cloud would come down and just cover the tabernacle. Just imagine looking out from your tent and seeing this constant, visible landmark hanging in the sky. It was a sign for the whole nation, and it was impossible to miss. And then at night, that same presence completely transformed. The cloud would look like a pillar of fire, this incredible column of light that lit up the camp. So there was never a single moment, day or night, when this guide wasn't visible to everyone. So what would it actually be like to live this way? I mean, imagine your entire life is a journey of absolute trust. You're following signals you can clearly see with your own eyes, but you can never, ever predict what they're going to do next. The rhythm of their life was incredibly simple, but also so profound. When the cloud lifted, that was it. That was the signal to move. The entire nation, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people, would pack up and set out. They'd follow that cloud until it settled down somewhere new, and wherever it stopped, that's where they'd make camp. Simple as that. And this is the part that just blows my mind. They had no idea how long they would stay put in any single spot. Seriously, the text says it could be for a couple of days, maybe a month, or, get this, it could be for an entire year. You had to be ready to pack up and go or just sit tight, all based on this one signal you couldn't control or predict. Can you even imagine the amount of trust that would take? The source text really hammers this point home, repeating this phrase almost like a drumbeat, at the Lord's command. Their entire existence, stopping, starting, moving, was a direct act of obedience to this visible, undeniable command in the sky. And that brings us right back to where we started. We began with a fixed rule that really needed a compassionate update, and we ended with this dynamic, living guide that required constant trust. It really leaves us with a provocative thought, doesn't it? In our own lives, when do we need a clear rulebook, and when do we need to just trust a living guide? This ancient story seems to suggest we might actually need both.